Great. So now we're going to move past the red curtain here. We're going to go out on stage to where the collection is. And the rest of the exhibition is, of course, focused on Eugene O'Neill. And we want to give you a good idea of his life and work through the artifacts, the books, the archival documents and whatnot that Harley collected. And it's roughly chronological. We have 6 sections. And the first one is called The Dreamy Kid. Every title is based on a title of one of his plays. So The Dreamy Kid really covers the first 24 years or so of O'Neill's life. He was born in 1888 to a popular theater actor, James O'Neill, an Irish immigrant, and very popular in the role of the Count of Monte Cristo. And so popular, in fact, he got pigeonholed in it, typecast, kind of a lot of actors' nightmares because they're really associated with one role and they can't break out of it. And so he performed this role something like 6,000 times from 1875 to his death in 1920, including once in film, in a silent film. It did make him a lot of money, but he did regret the limitation of that. So we have 3 things from his career as the Count of Monte Cristo: a program, a statuette that's commemorating like the 100th performance, and as I said, he did 6,000 total, and a photograph as well. O'Neill really, from the beginning, was in a theater. He followed his father around with his mother up until the age 7 as they traveled the country. And then he went to boarding school at age 7 and was in boarding school until college. They spent summers in their home in Connecticut, the Monte Cristo Cottage, and they named it after the Count of Monte Cristo. That's where the money came from to get it. And this is a photograph here that Harley actually took 80s or 90s maybe when he visited. And this is the setting of his late masterpiece, Long Day's Journey into Night, which featured a very heavily autobiographical family of his own. And his father was an alcoholic. His brother would die of alcoholism. His mother was a morphine addict from when Eugene was born. He was the 3rd son. Their 2nd son died of pneumonia very tragically. The mother had really trouble getting over it, and they had a 3rd baby, maybe to try to help her with that. But then the pain of the childbirth led to her morphine addiction. It really fed into his masterpiece, Long Day's Journey into Night, but was not a particularly happy childhood to live through. He went to Princeton for just 1 year. We have the Princeton Bric-a-Brac, which is their yearbook, and he didn't last long there. He didn't really attend classes. He got into a lot of trouble. He's already struggling with alcoholism himself, so he leaves after 1 year, and he ends up drifting around New York City, but also on the ocean and the seas, merchant ships, going to England, going to Honduras, and ending up in Buenos Aires at one point, where we have this pretty amazing manuscript here, probably one of the most valuable items in the collection, The Bridegroom Weeps, which is a holograph poetry draft that Harley will tell you a little bit more about.
Yeah, so O'Neill was married 3 times. The first time was not very long, but long enough to have a son, who was Eugene O'Neill Jr., who ultimately committed suicide. And the second wife, her name was Agnes, and she's the one that gave him a son and a daughter, Shane and Una. And this document was found among Agnes's effects when she died, and it got into the hands of her niece, a woman named Dallas Klein, and I became friends with Dallas Klein, and so I obtained this from her. And initially, it's scribbled on there by Agnes. She thought it was written in Provincetown. No, not Provincetown. Where was it? Where did she think it was done? Point Pleasant, New Jersey. She thought it was written in Point Pleasant, New Jersey. But based on the poem "The Bridegroom Weeps" and the topic matter, I didn't think, and not just myself, but some other Neil scholars, that it couldn't have been done then, and that it was actually done in 1910, 1911, when he was in Buenos Aires, and "The Bridegroom Weeps." He was lamenting the fact that he was married, and his father actually sent him out of town to get away from this woman that he married. He only married her because he got her pregnant, so they really weren't married long, and so he was lamenting that. So that's where this poem came from, and there's reference to this poem in some other articles and things that sort of help to date it. But this is the earliest O'Neill manuscript that's in existence that anybody knows about. Before any of his plays, he wrote poems, did a lot of poetry before he did his plays, and this is the first poem that we've got.
So yeah, even though O'Neill is kind of a drifter, kind of not really doing well in school, and he is a good reader. He's interested in literature, and he's interested in writing himself, and he is writing poetry. We have his first published poem here called "Free" in the Playdays Club yearbook from 1912. And he was also writing poetry and being a reporter for his hometown newspaper. But really, the turning point for his writing career came when he came down with tuberculosis and was in a sanitarium over the winter of 1912 and 1913. And he kind of realized that he had a career maybe as a playwright, and specifically writing about his experiences, the people he had met in these merchant ships and ports of call.